Welcome into the second installation of Chicago Draft Room 2026, along with Jacob Infante. I am Ari Temkin. So great to have you with us on this crazy busy Thursday. It feels like, man, last week there was some news that broke for us on our Thursday show. And once again, pretty significant news with the Bears this Thursday. What's up, Jacob? How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's a busy time of year, honestly, with everything that's going on with the Bears that we'll talk into, and then coming off the combine, free agency coming in. I mean, it's just it's busy, but it's a fun type of busy for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been a busy week for Ryan Poles and the Bears organization. And, obviously, as we focus specifically on the draft, there's a lot that happened that impacts the draft. So let's start with the news around their center, Drew Dalman. Certainly somebody that we didn't expect to be talking about this offseason, but he retires right in the prime of his career and, leaves the Bears in a little bit of lurch here at the center position, which, it feels like it's a position that the Bears had not solidified for a long time. Obviously we think back to Olin Kreutz in those days, but they finally did and found the right guy. And 1 year later, and the Bears are back shopping for another center. But to me, it's left tackle is an important position, obviously, because you're protecting the quarterback's blind side. But center is the leadership position on the offensive line. They set the protection. So, that part, and I think, when you have continuity amongst the interior of that line, now in some ways you're gonna have to start over at center.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a tough loss for sure. I mean, we don't know for sure what was going into his decision. I'm sure, I could hazard a guess it's just long-term health. But I mean, he didn't make a statement or anything, so we're kind of coming to our own conclusions on that. I
Totally.
think that, I mean, it's definitely a big loss when you have a guy who's that intelligent and moves that well and is such a good option, as like a zone run blocker. I think he does. That's a tremendous loss for sure. I think the good thing about the timing of this is that it's a pretty good free agent class of centers. I mean, obviously Tyler Linderbaum being the top guy, but whether it's like Tyler Biotish or Cade Mays or Lloyd Cushenberry, you have some options to work with here on the open market. So
Would your preference be to devote free agency dollars to that position, or do you think, because look, interior linemen tend to go later in the draft. I mean, I remember in my years covering the Big 12, with Creed Humphrey when he was coming out of Oklahoma. I mean, he slipped to the second round, so it wasn't maybe as much as some of these other guys do. But it's like you're going to get a center, you're going to plug in for the middle of your offensive line for the next decade. Do you think that there are guys in this draft that you could plug in and start from day one? Especially again, going back to that idea of it's a leadership position, you have to call protections, that stuff.
yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely possible, but I think it'd be tough to come about, honestly. Just because, I mean, like you mentioned, the so much of it's the mental aspect of it. I think there are a lot of, or I say a lot of, maybe like, six, potentially seven centers, uh, or projectable centers who I think could start relatively early in their careers. I don't know about day one. My guess is that the Bears dedicate some sort of, free agent investment of that position, whether it's, they go all in on a guy like Linderbaum or any of the other veterans, or Connor McGovern is another, top name as well, who's going to command top money. Uh, I just think that having that veteran presence, especially for a team that is looking to win now, I think is extremely beneficial for them as opposed to a rookie where you might have a little bit of a learning curve going in. And I mean, the Bears know as good as anybody that you can't afford to go super cheap at center, uh, just because that doesn't work out for the Bears, honestly. But at the same time, I think that the veterans probably the way to go.
Are there any centers you like in this draft?
Yeah, so none to take in the first round.
Right. And
It's
traditionally, again, guard centers are not going in the first round unless they're just, all-time greats. But even then, like it's tackles, football is about three things. It's about the quarterback, protecting the quarterback, and rushing the quarterback. And that's traditionally what you take in the first round.
Yeah, no, 100%. So you look at, there's a lot of solid day two value in this class. My top center is Brian Parker, the second out of Duke, and he's someone
Mhm.
you translate or like you expect him to project inside at the next level. He played tackle at Duke, so probably a little bit of more of a projection than a natural center like Connor Liu out of Auburn, who probably would have been my center one if he hadn't torn his ACL to end his year. uh, Jake Slaughter from Florida, Logan Jones from Iowa, Sam Hecht from Kansas State, Trey Zune the third from Texas A&M, Parker Brailsford from Alabama. That's a lot of names, and a lot of them I have pretty similarly ranked in like that third round, fourth round range. I think that's really the sweet spot of centers in this class.
Mhm.
Like you mentioned, it's a lot of a lot of reliable starting centers were mid-round, late-round picks. And I think it's kind of interesting. You have a handful of linemen in this year's class who look like they could fit that bill, but you know, you wait a little bit on those type of guys. So there's a lot of talent there. I think with that third round pick, I'd especially like to see them look at a center. But as far as day one starters go, I think a veteran's probably your best bet in this year's class.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hosted the Cowboys pregame show, pre and postgame show for 5 years, and in that time, the Cowboys drafted both Tyler Biadasz and Connor McGovern.
Mm.
And McGovern, I remember. I mean, I think he was an interior that they projected to be a right guard, situation, not a center. He was not a good guard. And I mean, he's been much better at center. Biadasz was in a tough spot because if you remember, that was right at the time that Travis Frederick retired, sort of similarly to Drew Dalman. Now, Frederick had, Guillain-Barré syndrome, but that was a guy kind of in the prime of his career. And Biadasz came into a tough spot where you're trying to replace kind of a guy that was really productive up front. But out of that group, I mean, Linderbaum, the he's the obvious one, but is he going to cost too much relative to what you should spend on a center? And is that what's your read on the free agency class relative to center? Again, given that like Linderbaum's the home run, but are you going to pay? Basically, he's going to become the highest paid center in the league when somebody signs him.
Yeah. So I mean, Linderbaum, I anticipate if he's not going to be the top center, he's going to be at least top three. I mean, you're looking at a significant amount of money in that, kind of Creed Humphrey sort of range. So if, checking right now to see on, from a perspective of what centers make on a yearly basis, right now, Creed Humphrey makes $18 million a year. I think that Linderbaum's going to surpass that by a decent amount. I think I saw a report that said like $25 million. I think that's a little steep. I don't think that $7 million more than the current first place center earner is all that accurate. But at the same time, I think that this is going to start to set more of a strong market for the center position because four current active centers are making more than $10 million a year on average. And I think that that's not representative enough of how valuable that position can be.
Agreed.
It was five, but then with Drew Dalman retiring, I mean, that's a staggering number where you have four centers. I mean, in theory, it's one center per, two Pro Bowlers, two alternates, and nobody else is making more than 10 million a year as a starting offensive lineman in the NFL. I think it's crazy to me. And you're not going to be able to, I mean, you're not making tackle money, you're not getting like a Rasheed Walker, for example, the left tackle for the Packers. He's an average starting tackle. He's probably going to make over $20 million a year.
Yeah.
An average starting center isn't going to make $20 million a year just because that's, the nature of the position. You're up the middle. You're not facing guys one-on-one as often. The task of difficulty respectfully isn't as high, but it's still a very valuable position. I think Linderbaum's going to set that straight. I think McGovern's going to get a good amount of money too. And some of the other guys I mentioned as well earlier, I think if they don't get more than 10 million a year, I think they're certainly going to flirt with it. So I think slowly but surely you're going to start to see that center market take shape and change a little bit more.
And I want to get obviously deeper into the draft because of the trade today with DJ Moore, but just real quickly for reference, I want to say Saquon Barkley, obviously at the top of the running back market, is just over 21 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
I think the only position right now that is less than center is tight end. I think the highest paid tight end is at 18 million. Which, you know, Dak Prescott, I think is going to make 56 million next year. So again, like
Yeah.
this to your like, and this is how you win in the NFL. And this is why the draft is so important, because you have to get guys to outperform how much money they're making in a hard cap. The problem is when you have a quarterback at the top of the market, it's almost impossible to do. And so you have to, I mean, obviously the Bears don't, but like that, you have to apply a certain amount of cash to the center position, especially, you know, I wouldn't say they're cash strapped because nobody is. You can always restructure and get out of money, but it's just not a highly paid position. And, you know, Drew Dalman was perfect in that way, that he was, you know, compensated close to the league average and was a, you know, above average to really good center, especially in this offensive line, especially in leadership positions. So going to be a difficult spot to replace on a Bears offensive line that was surprisingly very good last year. I say surprisingly because it had been a long time since the Bears had a good offensive line, even a passable offensive line. All right. Let's get to the huge deal, which happened today as we're going chronologically through the week. Drew Dalman retires. And then today, DJ Moore is traded. I believe he had an Instagram post this morning with he and his son looking out. And it was like some like goodbye post that he had before this trade went public. It's funny when athletes do that, especially like the metaphorical ones, like the door was open and they're both like peering out into space.
Yeah.
Look, we questioned if Ryan Poles was the guy last week on this show. And I mean, I still think there's legitimate questions about his ability to draft defensive players, but this is a damn good trade for Ryan Poles.
God, yeah.
To end up with a second round pick and a top 60 pick. The Bears now have, or top 40 pick, excuse me. The Bears now have 3 top 40 picks, which is insane. And not to mention the cap relief they're getting from DJ Moore, Jacob. I mean, this is one of the best deals we've seen Ryan Poles make.
Yeah, I mean 100%. Like now you're looking at like 4 you factor in the third round pick, it's 4 selections in the top 90 now.
Yeah, that's right. 4 in the top 90 and 3 in the top 60 because it's what 47 and 50 or
so I just pulled up on Temkin because I didn't know where the third rounder was. So 25, 57, 60, and 89.
Yeah, 57, 60, and
89. That's what they have in the first 2 days of the draft. That's huge. I mean, I like you said, I mean, we speculated, you know, last week, like, is Poles the guy? Like, is he going to be, you know, someone you can trust to keep this team sustainable? But then you see he moves off of DJ Moore, freeing up $16.5 million in cap space, and you get a second round pick out of it. I mean, you deal out a fifth, but at that point, you're playing with house money. I mean, the second round pick is massive. Like you're talking a 5th round pick that's probably a backup, a late second rounder. You're looking at a potential starter. I mean, that's a difference maker, especially in this class where you have a good handful of needs. I mean, defensive tackle, defensive end, linebacker, safety, center, maybe offensive tackle. Some of those positions you'll address in free agency, obviously, but you have a decent amount of needs now with 3 selections in the top 60 and 4 in the top 90. You have those opportunities to take advantage of a deep linebacker class, of a deep safety class. Maybe you want to throw a receiver in there, depending on how active they are in the free agency period here, which we'll see in the coming days and weeks how that all plays out. But I'm from the pure draft capital value alone, I'm really stoked about this trade. I mean,
forget about the cap relief. I mean, to get a second round pick for DJ Moore is, when I first saw the trade, I figured it was a 3rd round pick, and I was like, that'd be nice.
That'd be pretty sweet.
To
like I think
out a 5th and end up with a 2nd. Like I'd rather, if the option is a 3rd or swap a 5th for a 2nd, it's a no brainer.
No, totally. And I think Ian Rappaport said, like, it's like for, you know, mid-round compensation. I'm like, okay, does that mean like a 4th rounder? Maybe it's I mean, it's, you know,
3rd or 4th.
Yeah, 3rd or 4th. with the Bills being late in that third round there. But the
Right.
second round, it really threw me by surprise. And like, I wasn't shocked that the Bears traded DJ Moore. Like, a lot of people have been talking about it. Like, we've been talking about it. But because of the cap space situation. But I think it's the fact that they were able to get a haul much higher than a lot of us were expecting. That's really the most impressive part in all of this. So,
Yeah.
uh, hats off to Ryan Poles, I guess. So, I mean, we'll see what he does with the draft pick, but I think it's a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer to trade your or someone who's probably going to be your wide receiver 3 next year, making $28 million a year, to trade that, offload more than half of that cap hit, and to get a second round pick out of the mix. I mean, that's very well done. Very
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we also kind of briefly touched on, DJ Moore and what role he may have played in the last play of the Bears season with an interception from Caleb Williams that maybe DJ Moore didn't finish the route. Who knows? There's a lot that goes on within a football play that zeroing in on any one player at any time can be difficult. But did read this in the write up from Matt Harmon of Yahoo Sports on this trade. And, he spoke about how good of a fit DJ is for the Bills, who don't really have any receivers, even though they have one of the most expensive rosters in football based at receiver. It's crazy. But he said Moore isn't a fit for everyone as a top outside receiver. He can be loose with his route details and needs the right touch of role catering. It makes sense why he just wasn't a fit for the maniacally detailed Ben Johnson in Chicago, but this could work with Buffalo. Right. So, in going back to that interception by Caleb, where, certainly you can look at DJ and wonder if he finished the, who was off. Somebody was off in that play, but I think that speaks to what we talked about with DJ. DJ was great in Chicago. I mean, he has some iconic plays we'll always remember, and I think he was a really good receiver on some very bad Bears teams. But this offense and this team have graduated from the needs of DJ Moore right now.
No, 100%. I think that I don't remember who it was. Somebody pointed out that DJ Moore's best seasons with the Panthers were when Joe Brady was the offensive
Yep.
coordinator over there, and then now he's the head coach at
Buffalo.
Carolina. He's the head coach in Buffalo now. So having him beat, like you said, it's not a great fit for DJ Moore, for someone to be like a little bit more lackadaisical with his route effort and the fine tuning and the precision. But if the Bills let him improvise a little more, and if they
Right.
trust him to do that, then I could see him doing really well. He's still a talented player, and like, part of me gets why some Bears fans wanted to keep him. I mean, one, there's the emotional attachment, obviously, that I think a lot of fans won't like to admit, but it plays a part in the factor of, oh, he made big plays for us, I don't want him to leave.
But he doesn't
But
miss games, Jake. I mean, that's the reality of it. Like,
yeah,
this dude does not miss games. Rome Odunze's missed a ton of games in his first couple of years. I mean, Burden missed a couple games this year. Colson missed a game, right? I mean, guys miss games. This dude, DJ Moore, plays in every game. He doesn't,
yeah,
and he gets hurt in a game. He takes a big lick. He gets hurt. He's down. He gets up, and he's on the field the next play.
yeah, no, genuinely. And like, I think it's, he brings a good amount of value to an offense. I just think for the Bears, with all the defensive needs they have, it made all the
Right.
sense to offload that. And when you've invested in Burden, Odunze, Loveland, and you have Cole Kmet in the passing attack as well, like, you're not hurting for weapons.
Right.
So I think this was a move where uh, maybe if they, I don't know, it's playing revisionist history here. Maybe if they were a little smarter with the defensive line spending last year, instead of it being Dio and Grady Jarrett, maybe if you got two other guys, or like more so impactful players, maybe you wouldn't have to trade DJ Moore. But
Yeah, that's a great point.
but I think you are where you are. You learn from your mistakes and you adjust. And I think that Poles did a good job of adjusting and figuring out the opportunities to upgrade the roster, create more cap space, increase the draft capital. So I'm all for this for sure.
Now you got to hit on these defensive players. So, all right, let's talk about these top 90 picks then. So with this second round pick coming, that's 3 in the top 60, and then the 4th at 89. So 4 in the top 90. That's 4 in the first 2 days of the draft, as you said. So where, I mean, we could sit here and talk like all four should be defense. The Bears, and I agree with the strategy that Poles has embraced and talked about publicly that like he's going to always take the best available on your board. I think that's always the right approach. I mean, I would say in the first round, if the best player on their board is a wide receiver, they probably should still go defense, but I digress.
Yeah, valid.
But no, I mean, where do you see that? Where do you see them going? And I know you wrote about, you did a mock for Windy City Gridiron. So um, just give us an update on where you think the Bears will go first round and maybe in these 4 picks in the top 90.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of the best value in the first round is going to come at defensive tackle. And, like you mentioned in the mock that I did for the Bears, I had Peter Woods going 25th overall. Granted, it's a little bit hit or miss about whether or not he's going to be there as far as what the consensus thinks. I mean, I used the PFSN mock draft simulator to simulate the other picks around me. Some mocks have Peter Woods going as high as 14 to the Ravens. Others have him dropping out of the first round entirely. I happen to be more in the former, where I'm a very high on him. Uh, so I'd say even if it's not Peter Woods, though, Caden McDonald as a high level run defender, Lee Hunter as a big body nose tackle who can rush the passer a bit, Kristen Miller as a high floor, good leveraged football player who can stop the run and has some upside as a pass rusher to tap into, and then Caleb Banks,
Let me
you
let me
know,
let me stop you first. Okay, so let's talk
yeah,
about the first 2 guys, right?
yeah,
Because I think the consensus from most of the mocks would be majority of mock drafts across the media have McDonald or Woods.
yeah,
Those are two as we, kind of got into last week, those are 2 completely different players.
for
Woods
sure.
is a 3 technique. He is more of an athletic interior guy like you start to see from these best defenses. McDonald is more of the legit nose tackle. He's the space eating run stuffer. So those are, I think at least for where we sit right now, who knows what happens on draft day, but those are the majority of the guys that are mocked to the Bears right now. So where would you prefer the Bears went if both were available?
Yeah, so honestly, I'd lean Peter Woods. And I think for, the reason you mentioned too, the explosiveness off the line of scrimmage, what he brings as a pass rusher, the diversity of moves that he can string together to beat offensive linemen at the point of attack. I think it's deeper than what McDonald has. And while I think McDonald's bigger and stronger,
Yeah.
I do think that Woods still has, he plays with good pad level. He's got a high football IQ, still an impact player in the run game, just in a different way. So I see Woods as a player who's more likely to be a 3-ounce starter right away. I think McDonald is going to be a really good run stuffer in the NFL. It's just a matter of, as a pass rusher, what's he going to bring to the table? And because there were flashes at Ohio State for sure, but I think, he's not the most explosive interior defender. He's not the most crafty as far as his counter game goes. The first initial move is good. If that doesn't work, then maybe not so much. But I'd lean Woods out of the 2. I think, they're both very talented defensive tackles. I don't think you can go wrong one way or the other. But if both of them happen to be on the board at 25, Woods is probably the way I'd go.
Yeah. You also mentioned Lee Hunter. And I'm just gonna mention this for J2K Designs off the bat that we know he's got a horrible RAS score. But I mean, and he did not have a very good combine from a test perspective, right? So we've got a interior, rusher, a 3 technique, but he didn't test very well athletically. So, I'm a fan of Lee Hunter, but the RAS score doesn't lie, I guess.
Yeah, and I will say I think that RAS is a little bit harsh to nose tackles because I mean so many of those guys are just, you
Yeah.
know, they're
Right.
they're big space eaters, they're not the fastest, they can't jump out of the gym. You don't necessarily need them to. Uh so yeah, I think but it's something to keep in mind with Hunter's evaluation. I mean, I think he's more of like an early round 2 prospect, but I could see a team going, "Hey, this is a big body. He can, plug up the run pretty well, and he's got this, these flashes as a pass rusher that are really good." Maybe the consistency isn't at the same level of McDonald, or the explosiveness isn't the same level as Woods, but he's an intriguing combination of this massive dude who can move pretty well. Uh, so it'll be interesting to see where he plays out. I don't know if the Bears go in that direction, but he's a lot of fun to watch. So I wouldn't blame
Well,
them if they do go in that direction,
well,
even with the RAS.
he's got a great personality. Like the dude he'd be perfect for the Bears, and he'd be like a great Bears defensive lineman. Like he just has that personality. And at the end of the day, sometimes like guys that are able to get to the quarterback, like consistently, like they can do it at every level. Like that one of the most translatable skills in football is guys that can get after the quarterback in college tend to be able to do that in the NFL too. So I feel that way. All right. So okay, I stopped you, I think, after Lee Hunter. So, do you think I mean, you said Lee Hunter, you think's a second round pick. Do you think the Bears will have their option to take either Woods or McDonald at 25? And if not, are there other guys that you could project in that spot, or do you go out a defensive tackle because it's not good enough beyond those two guys at 25?
I mean, I think I'd still look to go D tackle. I think I'd feel comfortable with Kristen Miller at 25. I think that's a name not enough people have talked about, just because he's not the flashiest prospect in the world, but he's a really good run defender over the course of his time at Georgia. Quick off the line of scrimmage. He's got good flexion in his lower body. Does a good job of keeping his pads low. Strong anchor. Good spatial awareness against the run. I think the thing with him is Georgia rotates their defensive linemen so much, to the point where he didn't get as much of an opportunity as a pass rusher as I would like, but the flashes he's shown are really intriguing. Like, the quickness, some of the finesse in his hands, when he gets the timing and the placement of his strikes right, can be really good. Still a work in progress, obviously, a little bit unproven as a pass rusher, but I think he's got a higher floor than a lot of people realize. I mean, and then there's Caleb Banks, which we can go through that. And also, sorry to break this. This just came in. Adam Schefter says the Bears are releasing Tremaine Edmonds.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
So they didn't
That's
get a trade going.
yeah, right. Exactly. They shopped him around. There were some rumors they could move him and they couldn't. Wow.
Interesting. Okay. So I mean, I got my hopes up. I got my hopes up that it was like, oh, teams are interested in trading for him. I guess they just didn't find, good enough value, which it is what it is. I mean, they were going to dump him anyway just to free up that cap space. So that seemed like a matter of time. But, uh,
Yeah.
I got my hopes up. That's my bad. That's my
At least
bad, I
I
guess.
mean, at least the Bears got a second round pick today. I mean, that
Absolutely.
I did not expect the Bears to be able to turn either DJ Moore or Tremaine Edmonds into a second round pick. So, if it's a third and a fourth, or a third and a sixth, or a second and nothing, I'm fine with the second.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, it works. And if I think about it like that, I start to be, I can accept just straight up releasing Edmonds. That it
Yeah,
becomes a
yeah,
little bit
totally.
more palatable for sure.
Well, look, I mean, it's not I mean, off ball linebackers, right? I mean, that's, not exactly a premium position right now in the league. So,
Yeah, that's true. And I think also too with Edmonds, you're not getting much of a discount, because like with DJ Moore, I mean, the
right.
Bears ate at what, like $12 million of his cap hit this year. With Edmonds, they're only eating like $2 or $3 million. So you're still paying Edmonds $15 million if you trade for him. Saying, I guess people thought, okay, I don't want to be paying him $15 million, even if it's just for this 1 year. So it is what it is.
Well, and I'm sure a lot of teams are evaluating this draft, and I mean, the linebacker, especially like non-pass rushing linebackers, there's a lot of them in this draft and some good ones. So,
Absolutely.
again, not a premium position, not not going to be drafted high, although there might be some off-ball linebackers the first round this year, which shows you how good the class is. And I don't think Jacob Rodriguez is one of them, and I think that guy's going to be a stud in the NFL. So,
100%. Yeah.
do you see the Bears going, linebacker in one of those top 90 picks?
Honestly, potentially I do. I think really in that late second round range would be really interesting. Say if they go defensive line at 25, I think they'd have a really good chance to take, like you mentioned, Jacob Rodriguez, who I really like. Jake Golday out of Cincinnati would be
Yeah.
another really good option. Kind of fit into that Edmonds mold where he's super tall and moves really well. Similar kind of playing styles. It's just you're not paying $18 million for Jake Golday, so it becomes a lot more
You're paying
palatable.
significantly less than that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, which awesome. uh, Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas, maybe there. I feel like he's a little bit more of an early second round type of guy.
Yeah.
But Golday and Rodriguez, I think would be really good value there. Josiah Trotter out of Mizzou, I think would be a good option. I
Yeah.
think he's my only concern with him as a fit for the Bears is I think he's a little too much like TJ Edwards, and
Not great in coverage.
yeah, he's still very much a work in progress in coverage, but he
He's
is
a
man,
thumper.
he's so pro ready against the run.
Yeah.
Like his processing is so quick. He's physical. He's a thumper, exactly like you said. I think that's the best way to put it. And he's a good enough athlete that I think he could be good in coverage someday. And he's a redshirt sophomore only, so he's an early declaree into the draft. So he's pretty young. He's got a lot. He's got time on his side. Uh, I'd be very happy with that still, even if you have two linebackers where it's like, oh, I don't know about them in coverage, but they're
Is
gonna stop the hell out of the run game.
he's a
So
second round pick, isn't he, Trotter?
I'd put him in the second round. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think consensus is a little up and down about him, but second round's where I have him for sure.
I think the Bears' rush defense was so bad last year that Trotter would be perfect. You just have to be better at safety to make up for the fact that you probably have two linebackers that can't cover.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, shoot, if you get you draft one of those safeties who can, play in the box, who can hit downhill, just sub Trotter or Edmund or Edwards out on passing downs. Like you can work with that. You can,
Yeah.
if you bring back CJ Gardner Johnson or you draft a safety with that other second round pick, I mean, you got something you could work with there for sure.
Yeah. Um, a couple of tackles that were brought up on the chat, and we appreciate everybody hanging out with us tonight here in Chicago Draft Room. We're live Thursdays at 8 o'clock Central, and of course, you can listen to the podcast after. Make sure to like and subscribe everywhere to Second City Podcasts, Second City Gridiron, podcasts, and of course, Windy City Gridiron as well. All right, so Dante Corleone, Dominique Orange, two guys that were brought up. Dominique Orange is a stud. Iowa State. He played in this rush 3, drop 8, John Haycock defense at Iowa State. So you talk about being in the middle of a 3-man front, that's dropping into coverage. He was a 4-star recruit for Iowa State out of the Kansas City area too. So he's, he's what you'd consider a blue chip prospect. Dante Corleone is a very good player who actually up until recently had never seen The Godfather, if you can believe it.
Really?
Yeah. The problem is,
Wow.
I shouldn't, this isn't a problem, but it is. I mean, his medicals are not going to come back very good because he had something before the last season where he, basically now has to take medicine a day before games in order to play based on his heart. I don't know the specifics about it, but he missed a lot of time and then thought he was retiring from the sport and came back. I bet a lot of teams are going to take him off their boards. Somebody's going to take a chance on him, and he was a very productive and very good player for Cincinnati. But I have a feeling Ryan Poles will take a guy like Dante Corleone off his board.
Yeah, I mean, and it's unfortunate too because I think there's a lot to like with Corleone. I mean, he's
Blood clot.
yeah, he's a massive individual, just a stout defender who could plug up the gaps really well. Strong, good situational awareness against the run. Something to tap into as a pass rusher. I think he doesn't have the longest arms. He's not the most agile defensive tackle, but he's him and Dominique Orange, Big Citrus, they're kind of in the same, they're kind of in the same realm where they're both, like stout, physical, strong run defenders. I think Orange to me is a little more explosive. I think he carries
Yes.
a little bit more upside on passing downs, like a good tester type of player. But yeah, I think if you can get Orange if you pass on defensive tackle in round 1, Orange is a guy that I'd really like late in round 2. Uh, Corleone, I think, like you said, because of the medical concerns would probably he'll probably drop. I don't know if the Bears would be willing to take a chance on a guy like that. I have him like in that round 3, round 4 kind of range currently. There, I mean, with someone with a medical history, you never really know. I mean, players can fall a lot farther than that. But I think they're especially before this year, I think the flashes you see from Corleone on tape are worth drafting for sure. Like I think if he gets his health situation cleared out and it's, comes back totally okay, I think there's a chance he could be a good starter in the league. There's just a decent amount of risk attached to it.
And I'm pretty sure Corleone was the shortest defensive tackle measured at the combine and the heaviest.
Mm. You're talking about a refrigerator right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, short arms. But yeah, I mean, Orange has a lot of upside. To me, he's like run stuffer that has a lot more upside as a pass rusher. And again, like he was manning a 3-man front that dropped 8 into coverage, so like it was all on him to make it all happen on that defensive line against
Yeah.
pretty good offenses. What else in the first? I mean, so heavy defense. Are you looking at tackle in the first 4 rounds or first 3 rounds?
I mean, maybe. I probably wouldn't in the first round just because. I mean, look, I think if you're taking a tackle, it's probably a stopgap option because I
Right.
do think, whenever Ozzy does come back, maybe it's later in the season. I think that they'll slot him in as the starting left tackle for this offensive line. That's why I think, maybe they sign a veteran to compete with Theo Benedict. Maybe they bring back Braxton Jones. Maybe they do draft someone on day 2, but I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be higher than that. I think that in this class specifically, there's a pretty discernible gap between the first round prospects and the day 2 prospects. Like to me, you're looking at 6 offensive tackles that I think will go in the first round, maybe 7. Uh, you know, Maui Noah from Miami, Fano and Lomu from Utah, Monroe Freeling from Georgia, Caden Proctor from Alabama, and then either Blake Miller from Clemson or Maxi Inachor from Arizona State.
Arizona State.
So I think that's 7 guys. I don't think all 7 of them are going to go in the first round, but I think all 7 of them will go in the top 40. And then from there, there's a pretty decent drop off where you're looking at, okay, Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern is a solid day 2 guy, but he's probably more of a third round pick. Then you get into the, project territory. Isaiah World from Oregon, very raw, toolsy, lengthy, athletic, but the technique is, a work in progress. Same can be said, Demetrius Crownover from Texas A&M. Uh, Austin Barber from Florida, Jude Bowery, Boston College. Again, more like late day 2, early day 3 type of guys. There's there's not a lot of second round value at offensive tackle in this class. I think that the guys who could be, I think the guys who show those really good flashes are going to go early. They're going to get reached for, and then there's going to be a little bit of a gap between the rest of this class. Maybe you see 1 or 2 tackles going in the second round, and then the rest is just round 3 from there. But uh, I think round 3 is probably the spot if you are going to go with an offensive tackle with those first 4 picks in the top 100. The third round's probably going to be your best bet because I think the value is going to be a lot better there. Unless there's a guy that they're just like way higher on than I am, then then all the power to them. But I think that I think probably round 3 and later is probably the best, like the sweet spot for tackle, just from a pure value standpoint.
And nobody, has a better sense of Ozzy's progress than the Bears themselves. And
Yeah.
so maybe what they do at that position gives us an indication of where they think he's going to be in the timeline of it. And look, I mean, you shouldn't be rushing him back by any stretch, but modern technologies and medicines, you just don't, I mean, in rehabs, you just don't know. So, I mean, maybe that's just an interesting subplot to this draft is the approach, how aggressive they are at tackle, considering how big of a need it could be if they don't feel good, 1, about the guys they have in the room, or 2, again, the timeline of Ozzy is, whatever, longer than expected. What I mean, a year, is that the expectation?
I think they said they expect him to miss a decent chunk of the season. They didn't say he'll be out for all of 2026, but they expected he's going to miss a decent amount of time. Uh, but polls did say they expect him to make a full recovery and like get back to full strength, which is very encouraging. I mean, who knows? GMs and coaches, say things to the
Right.
media all the time, and whatever. But if that is the case, if that's truly like they don't have that worry about it, then yeah, I think you're definitely right in that you're going to see like the amount of investment they make at tackle is going to show like either in the short term or the long term, uh, how they view Ozzy's progress and his comeback from injury.
Yeah, I guess let's hope it's not a first round pick or priority. That
Yeah,
could
I
be
hope
very
not.
bad. It's amazing how football, like, you can never have everything, right? When you have things figured out at most positions, you just start, more holes start to leak
Oh,
other
jeez.
places.
Yeah.
And that's where, I mean, going back to the ultimate, strategy and approach to the draft, best available is probably the right approach because you just never know what position group was a strength is suddenly a weakness.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, like looking back at last year, Luther Burden, a lot of people were
Yep.
surprised by that pick. I
Yep.
mean, the value was there. He was, like best player available, truly. To this day, I'm surprised that he was available at 39 overall. Uh, and my thought at the time was, I mean, a lot of people's thought at the time was, uh, it's not a big need. It's not a big need, but the value's there. And lo and behold, now Burden looks like he has a potential to be the wide receiver one in 2026. And his drafting him and his, ascending play allows you to dump off DJ Moore and save
Yeah.
$16.5 million. So it's truly the best way to go. I know in the short term, it's like, oh well, why didn't we draft a running back early enough? Well, I mean, it worked out for the Bears that they got Kyle Monangai in the 7th round anyway. But also, would you say that? I mean, because looking at it, Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins both went off the board by the time the Bears picked. Would you rather have Luther Burden or would you rather go with the best running back available, who was probably like Caleb Johnson at the time out of Iowa, who
Yeah,
didn't really
no,
do anything for the
burden.
Steelers this
I
year?
mean, and certainly not no obviously knowing what we know now, but, even at that point, I mean,
Even then, yeah.
yeah. But I mean, in watching Burden, it wasn't a surprise, maybe how
Oh,
quick it
jeez.
happened, but yeah, I mean, this dude was a stud at Mizzou. I mean, he was gonna be great. I mean, yeah, you're right. He was at 39 to be available there. It's too much value to pass up on that. And look, I mean, I think you could tell in real time that if they hit, like, it'll work on offense, but their defense is gonna struggle, and that was the story of the year. Like, the Bears, despite their successes and what an incredibly successful season it was, were always a draft away on defense. Now they got a hit, but this, like,
Yeah.
because they overinvested on offense, they put themselves in a position where they have depth. Like you said, they have so many targets. And so now, I mean, now they've got to build the coffers on defense. And, I mean, that's again where Ryan Poles has been a great GM, but that's where he's got to, drafting quality, high level defensive starters is a key right now for this team.
100%. And I think that the Bears did what they needed to do last draft and the last couple off seasons. They built a strong offense around Caleb Williams, and I think that that's the most important thing.
Right.
But now, like you said, you're starting to see the defensive holes start to pop up. Like, all right, now you need a linebacker because Edmonds didn't live up to his contract. Now you need a safety because Byard and Brisker are both hitting free agency at the exact same time. You need D line because your past signings didn't work. Uh, so this draft is going to be key for sure, and that's why especially happy that they got the second rounder that they did in the DJ Moore trade. It gives them more swings at the plate.
Yep.
A higher hit,
And
like
disappointing they couldn't get anything for Edmonds because we thought they'd, at that point they'd have more.
yeah, yeah. I was psyching myself up. It's like, oh, maybe they can get a 4th round pick or something for that. I mean, it wasn't meant to be, but either way, you're still going to have a decent amount of draft capital to use on defense. Now you have a lot more cap space to work with. I saw someone tweeted it out after the Bears release Tremaine Edmonds that They have, I think they've cleared like over $40 million in cap space this week between trading DJ Moore, between releasing Tremaine Edmonds, and then, the sudden retirement of Drew Dalman. So there's a ton of flexibility there. Yeah, J2K in the YouTube chat says $44 million. So you have something to work with here, whether it's, you're pooling all that in on a trade for Maxx Crosby, or you're signing a defensive lineman in free agency, using some of that money on, keeping a safety, signing a defensive lineman, and then adding a linebacker or something like that. Like, you could do a lot with that money. And I get the sense they're not done because of how much flexibility they have with restructuring contracts. I mean, you could free up, like, the cap is all relative, and I
Right.
think that the Bears are showing that right now.
No, exactly. And that's the ultimate point here is like money doesn't really matter in the NFL. It's kind of a weird thing because every year the cap rises to a certain degree. So because you're still, baking in the new television revenue that is just even more money than the last one, which, so again, so like just the exponential growth every year of the salary cap naturally. And like you said, I mean, the way they with ease opened up this money, they would have opened up anyways even if they didn't get draft compensation.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you could still restructure. You could borrow from tomorrow because the money's going to be there tomorrow because ultimately the cap is going up in a very big way every year. So that's a great point you made about look at how much money they made up. And that's every team has that. Some teams and ownership may, try to make it seem like teams don't have money, but ultimately it's very easy to open up money in the NFL. You can go from having no salary cap to all of the salary cap very quickly by restructuring deals and cutting guys on deals where you're eating some money, but getting out of most of it.
100%. And, I like to look at, just as an example of the last couple of years, Jalen Johnson, like that, he signed $19 million a year. Pretty big deal at the time. Now he's the 13th highest paid corner
Right.
after, you're looking at other guys like Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner,
Right.
JC Horn. I think Pat Surtain came after him too. But a lot of these guys essentially resetting the market. Both Gardner and Stingley are making over $30 million a year, which that's, like, those guys are really good. But would I say that they're both $11 million a year better than Jalen Johnson? I I don't think I would. I don't think I would. So I think that's a perfect example. It just goes to show, as the salary cap increases year after year after year, it's all relative. And, so much, what can be an overpay now might end up looking like a bargain 2 years from now.
Yeah. And Sertan and Ramsey are at 24 million.
Wow.
And so what do we think Linderbaum is going to be at 20, over 20?
I think over 20. Yeah. Cause Humphreys at 19 or 18. Sorry. Uh, so yeah, I think Linderbaum's going to get
Yeah.
over 20.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and corners probably, what? I mean, it's on the level of no receivers are probably paid more annually than that. Corners probably in the lower end, I would think.
Uh, let's see. For the most part, yeah. Like, I think defensive tackle is one that's, slowly but surely rising up there. You're seeing, like, I've pulled it up. I'm looking at it now. You've got a ton of guys making $20 million a year or more, and three of them are on the Cowboys, which is nuts. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah,
What's Micah Parsons getting paid?
so Micah, he's leading all edge rushers with $46.5 million a year.
Wow.
You have four edge rushers now making over $40 million a year. Parsons and Hutchinson are both making 45 mil or above.
Which
And that
is
that yeah.
the top three would be quarterback, defensive end, and left tackle, right tackle, either tackle position. And which is, again, why you should only draft those three positions in the first round if you can.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, like, I think that for the most part, you have to factor in positional value because,
Yeah.
I mean, and I
Right.
think I think a
You have
three
to.
technique pass rushing defensive tackle is working its way into the mix. But I think, edge rusher, left tackle, quarterback, uh, And then you can argue receiver and corner from there,
Yep.
depending. But I think positional value is real, and the best teams more often than not are the ones that have the best players at the most important positions. So and even outside of quarterback, like
Yeah.
Charles Cross is making a ton of money for the Super Bowl winning Seattle Seahawks right now. Trent Williams is made it to I think 2 Super Bowls with the 49ers. I think he was there for that one with Jimmy Garoppolo. Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson, both left tackle and right tackle with the Eagles. They won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So
Yep.
that points to left tackle, but having impactful players up the middle at D tackle, having a good edge rushers, that's where the wins are counted.
Yeah. All right. For the final 10 minutes of the show tonight, let's get to just kind of final takeaways from last week's combine. Obviously we were doing the show live while it was going on, the opening night. So what were your overall thoughts? Give me your big takeaways from the combine.
Yeah, so I come away really excited about these linebacker and safety classes. I think that I liked a lot of the day two value in this class at those positions, but to see them perform as well as they did makes me feel really good about the Bears specifically, where now you have as far as the linebackers go, you have five guys, not including Arvell Reese, who, if you have him as an edge rusher, off ball linebacker, I have
Right.
him off the ball, but you're going to move him around. If you include Arvell Reese, there's six off ball linebackers who ran a 4.55 or faster at the combine. Uh, One of them being Caleb Elam's Orr out of
TCU.
TCU.
Yep.
I love it. I actually just had the chance to interview him for Pro Football Network. It was yesterday, literally. And I was like, coming off of a 4.47 40-yard dash at linebacker, and you've got all these guys who can move so well, like Jacob Rodriguez, Jake Golday, who have that speed, who have that mobility.
Namdi
Uh,
Obi, he's Elam's or teammates, TCU,
yes,
Namdi Obiizer.
yes, yeah, he's another one of those guys who he came in with the sub 4.55. He's a great athlete to his own right as well. Uh, and I think I remember seeing Obi Yazor. He started over Elam Zor last year because Elam Zor didn't start in 24 for TCU, did he?
Um, I mean, he
Or, or,
transferred.
or
What
like
was
in the
he
rotation?
transferred in 24 is his first year. I think he started in 24, not in 25.
Okay, okay, so
Maybe I
yeah,
have it backwards, but no, I mean, yeah, last year was his first. 24 was his first year. Excuse me. The TCU
okay.
transferred in.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, you got a lot of talent at the linebacker position. I mean, and obviously Sonny Styles too. He's not going to be available for the Bears, but he's just
Right.
a physical specimen. Uh, but then to see the speed at safety too, I was a little surprised by, like pleasantly. I think you're looking, you see Traden Stukes from Arizona, whether you have him as a nickel corner or you have him as a safety, some hybrid of the two. He ran a 4.33. Dylan Thieneman with a 4.35 looked incredible in positional drills. Jalen Kilgore, South Carolina, VJ Payne, Kansas State, Bud Clark, TCU. Like all guys, like VJ Payne, and in particular, he's someone that who's been climbing up my board the more I watch him. And then after I've seen him, put together a strong combine, I'm like, all right, this is a dude where if they take him in round three, I mean, in round four, I'd be ecstatic. But if they take him late round three, he's a big bodied, hard hitter who can run really fast. Uh, Big 12 has a lot of really good defensive backs this year. Like as I'm looking
So
through it too.
okay, so you brought up Trey Dan Stukes. I want in on the Arizona. They have three guys in the
Yeah.
secondary: Genesis Smith, Trey Dan Stukes, and
Dalton Johnson.
Dalton Johnson, who is
Yeah.
a blazer.
Mm.
And he's like not that big, but he was their leading tackler last year. And the reason I want in on that Arizona defensive backfield is they had a lot of takeaways. They
Yeah.
were a very opportunistic defense. Their secondary was aggressive, just similar how the Bears were last year, just taking the football away. So I want who knows what they're going to be doing at corner and what guys are coming back. I want opportunistic ball hawking corners. Dalton Johnson is that. I mean, Tre'Davious Stukes is that for sure. I mean, they're those guys are flawed. Obviously, they're not first or second round picks, but I like those guys. I like that defensive backfield was very good last year for Arizona. That was a very good football team.
No, absolutely. I mean, and I think I come away like Genesis Smith gets a decent amount of hype too, and I think that I kind of get like Grant Delpit sort of vibes from him, where I think he can start in the league for a good while. Where okay, maybe his form as a tackler needs to improve, but he's just a big, long playmaker in
Yeah.
coverage. Like he's
Yeah.
got good instincts, tracks the ball down well. Good athlete. Didn't run at the combine, but I think that there's something to like there. And then Stukes obviously is a baller. Dalton Johnson, like you said, I don't think he gets nearly enough credit in this safety class. I think he's someone who can stick around in the league for a long time. I have him as like a fifth rounder right now, but I think you could very easily sell me on taking him in round 4 for sure.
All right. Since we're talking Big 12, the wide receiver from Cincinnati, who had
Yeah.
no
Oh
offers
yeah.
coming out of high school and had one of the highest real athletic scores ever
Oh yeah.
reported, a higher RAS than Calvin Johnson, Jeff Caldwell.
Oh my lord. That was nuts. I mean, like I've watched him. I was impressed with what I saw. I knew he was going to test well. I wasn't expecting that well. I mean, that
Yeah,
was insane.
insane. Especially for a
Jeez.
guy that, again, he was not recruited out of high school at I can't remember where he transferred him from, and he wasn't. I mean, he was productive, but not as productive as you expect. But athletically, somebody's gonna take him early. He might go Darius Hayward Bay. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, so I remember Caldwell, he went to Lindenwood.
Lindenwood, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
because I lived in St. Louis for a little bit, so I know I've got a soft spot for Lindenwood. But yeah, he was a beast there. He went to Cincinnati. Maybe not like a high volume receiver over there, but I mean, you're talking about a dude who's 6'5", 216 pounds, and can run a
right.
4.31 and jump 42 inches in the air. Like that is like
Yeah,
where does he come from? Like
yeah.
how do you do that as
How
a
was he at
human being?
Lindenwood?
I don't know. I don't know.
That was once. I think they're Division One now. I think they're FBS now, but they were NAIA. Like that was an NAIA a
Really?
powerhouse program for years.
Mm. Yeah, they moved up to FCS. I don't know what conference they're in off the top of my head,
But
but yeah.
I think they are moving up to FBS too. Like I
Oh,
think
really?
at least they intend. Like I remember hearing that they were going up to Division One and like Conference USA or
Oh,
something. I don't
dang.
know. Who knows?
That'd be
Maybe
pretty
I made
sick.
it up.
Yeah. Go Lions? I think they're the Lions. Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My first job out of college, I was
Yeah.
doing radio in Moberly, Missouri, and we had I did Central Methodist University football, which is
Mm.
in the Mid America Athletic Conference, which is where Lindenwood was at the time, and they were dominant. Baker University outside of Lawrence, Kansas, is also in the Mid America Athletic Conference, which is where Mike McCarthy went to college.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Look at
Yeah.
the ties. It's
In
crazy.
Baldwin City, Kansas. All right. Any other final takeaways from the
Uh,
combine this past week? We talked about Jeff Caldwell testing out of the off the charts. We talked about
uh,
Arizona corners and how they tested, and cornerbacks and linebackers and the depth of those positions.
I'll say I'm glad the Bears don't need a quarterback this year.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
I mean, maybe they'll draft a guy on day 3. If they don't retain Case Keenum or if they trade Tyson Bagent, I don't know. I don't think they will, but we'll see. But I'm just whelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm just whelmed with this quarterback class. Uh, and like I don't know, you have your like Talon Green out of Arkansas is a freak athlete, obviously, but the accuracy is a concern. Uh, Ty Simpson looks solid enough. I don't know how much zip he's gonna have as far as the arm talent upside there. I'm just glad the Bears got their quarterback at the time that they did. And I mean, I wish the quarterback class was a little stronger so it could push other players a little further down the board. But who knows? I mean, maybe a team's going to fall in love with Talon Green on day 2, bet on the upside, or they'll, take a chance on Garrett Nussmeier or Carson Beck or something, and that'll, land some studs in the Bears' laps in round 2 or round 3. But yeah, I think, there's a lot of good strengths in this class, and a lot of them just so happen to line up with what the Bears need this offseason. But quarterback is not a need for the Bears, and coincidentally, it's not a strong class this go around.
Yeah. However, the 2027 draft class is going to be
Mm.
loaded at quarterback.
That's going to be really interesting. I
Yeah.
mean, like
Because
you're looking,
teams are going to
yeah,
play for the top of the 2027 draft because it could rival the 24 quarterback class. So
yeah. I mean, you're looking at like there are a good chunk of guys I look at, and I'm like, they could hey, have first round upside. It's
yeah,
just a matter like who's gonna live up to it. That's
right.
gonna be the big question. But I mean, man, like the toolsy guys like Lenore Sellers from South Carolina, DJ Lagway from he transferred to Baylor.
Baylor, yep.
Yeah. Arch Manning, obviously, Jaden Mayava, USC, Darian Mensah going to Miami now.
I think like
That
Sam
whole
Levitt
controversy.
at LSU now, he could have a big year and he could be,
Oh
become
yeah,
a guy that gets in the conversation.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of guys in that 27 class. So yeah, that'll be interesting. All right. Make sure to like and subscribe to Second City Gridiron here on YouTube and of course on our podcast page, and check out all the great coverage. When breaking news happens, we're reacting right here on Second City Gridiron, of course on Windy City Gridiron. Jacob, you're the best. Let's do it same time, same place next week.
Yes, sir.
Of course, we'll be following along, see all your reaction and mock drafts and everything else. I'm Ari Temkin. Follow us on Twitter. Appreciate you joining us every week, Thursday at 8 o'clock. But for now, we're out. Peace.